What's up everybody, D-Man back, welcome to a brand new video, and today we're going to be doing another Godzilla Explained. In this one, we will be answering the question, why do Godzilla and Scylla fight at the start of Godzilla X Kong the New Empire, and why does Godzilla ultimately make the spoilery decision to kill Scylla? Godzilla X Kong the New Empire starts out with an explosive bang as the grudge match between Godzilla and Scylla spills out onto the streets of Rome. In order to answer the questions of why they were even fighting in the first place, when last we saw Scylla, she was an ally, or seemingly an ally. She bowed to Godzilla at the end of King of the Monsters. And why is it that Godzilla makes the decision to kill her rather than have her submit to his rule? In order to do that, we're going to jump back into the past and go over a brief history of Scylla in the MonsterVerse. Titanus Scylla, aka Titan 24, is a cephalopod and is something of a mix between a crab, a squid, and a spider. Named after a sea monster in Greek mythology, the King of the Monsters Scylla Spotlight newspaper confirms the connection, implying that the myths were actually based on her. Originally discovered buried in the desert in Sedona, Arizona, and contained at Outpost 55 by Monarch, it's speculated that Scylla was originally a sea creature that maybe wound up stranded in the desert after the waters covering her receded. Scylla was originally discovered upturned, where she was presumed dead, and so Monarch did not fortify her body. In the Godzilla X Kong novelization, it's speculated by Monarch that the iconic Easter Island statues were erected as a way to ward off Scylla like scarecrows. As a result, Monarch has designated Scylla as a destroyer, a designation given to many, if not most, or basically all of the MonsterVerse titans. Scylla is a scavenger who is driven by her insatiable hunger for nuclear radiation. In Godzilla King of the Monsters, Scylla is called upon by Ghidorah during the Mass Awakening to rise up and begin a reign of terror across the globe. Scylla erupts from the oil field she was sleeping in and goes on the rampage through Phoenix, Arizona, until Madison Russell is able to calm all the titans down and call them to Boston using the Orca. Scylla responds, making it just in time to watch Godzilla deliver the final kill blow to King Ghidorah, cementing himself as the King of the Monsters. Taking Rodan's lead, Scylla bows to Godzilla, submitting to him as the new Alpha Titan. This enters the reign of Godzilla, and despite bowing to Godzilla in Boston, not all of the titans that submitted to Godzilla were doing so out of loyalty. Some of the titans, like Scylla and seemingly Rodan, whose loyalty is only truly to himself, were simply buying time for themselves. In Godzilla Dominion, we find out that Godzilla feels an imbalance coming from the United States, presumably off the coast of Savannah, Georgia. He then responds to it to discover Scylla, desperate to feed upon a nuclear bomb that was lost in the ocean. Godzilla appears and finds Scylla at war with the Coast Guard, and he quickly realizes that she's after the nuke. But he fears that by feasting upon it, Scylla will accidentally cause it to detonate, contaminating the area with radiation. Why Godzilla thinks this is kind of unknown, considering that the Mutos were able to feast upon nuclear bombs and they didn't explode, and considering he would be able to absorb the excess radiation released by it into the area, so it really would actually satisfy his own hunger as well, which he was experiencing at the time of his fight. But regardless, Godzilla decides to challenge Scylla so that doesn't happen. Godzilla releases an alpha call, so Scylla will back down, but it has the opposite effect, causing her to get territorial over the bomb, and causing the two of them to get into a fight. Scylla is able to put up a decent fight against Godzilla, stabbing him multiple times and drawing blood, similar to the way the Mutos were able to do in the 2014 film. She even uses her tendrils to wrap around Godzilla's face, a move she would later on do in Godzilla Kong. This disorients Godzilla, who throws Scylla around and slams her into an oil refinery, causing it to explode. Godzilla then throws Scylla into the ocean, where it turns out she is a far superior swimmer to himself. Scylla outswims and escapes Godzilla, disappearing into the depths. Starved and desperate, Scylla is forced to hibernate in a lake in Antarctica, hoping to find food at a later date. This is where she is able to stabilize the sea levels, and her body temperatures then slow the ice melts, offsetting the effects of global warming. In Godzilla Dominion, Godzilla believes that territory is not a choice, it's a compulsion, and it's possible that Godzilla feels that Scylla will only be satisfying the natural order if she lives in Antarctica, where she is being called to. This is where she can offset the ice melt, and serve a greater purpose for the Earth as a whole. In Godzilla X Kong the Hunted, the prequel comic for the New Empire, the biggest game hunter around, Raymond Martin, needs to distract Godzilla Godzilla while he takes his Titan Hunter mech for a test drive, and in order to do so, he activates a decoy nuclear reactor meant to draw Godzilla's attention. It works, and Godzilla responds by destroying the oil rig it was activated on. He then uses the device a second time to draw Godzilla's attention from his team while they transport supplies and their mech into the Hollow Earth. This time the decoy activates near a nuclear power plant in Bengal, India, only Godzilla isn't the only one to respond. It turns out that these reactor decoys, which work very similar to the gamma decoy technology seen in Monarch Legacy of Monsters, have awoken Scylla and drawn her to them in search of food. Scylla does battle with the Indian Air Force, and then she feasts upon the power plant, first causing it to melt down before releasing a fog-like pollutant which she then sucks back in, absorbing the radiation in the area into her body and then returning to sea, now awakened and driven by the desire to feast. Godzilla shows up to assess the damage and is enraged by the excess radiation leaking into the environment as a result. Scylla continues her rampage over the next week, showing up first in the UK where she feasts upon a uranium plant, and then in Italy where she ate 30 American nuclear missiles in a secret military base. Bernie Hayes investigates and speculates that Scylla might be absorbing so much radiation because she's planning to lay eggs, or because she's trying to become nuclear enhanced so that she can take on Godzilla for the title of the king. It's worth noting that not all of Bernie's theories are accurate. For instance, his theory that there are 2 Ghidorah skulls controlling Mechagodzilla turns out not to be true, as confirmed by Adam Wingard in a Toho Kingdom interview. While this was a continuity error initially, it just turns out Bernie's theories were wrong. Bernie's mistaken. There's only 1 Ghidorah skull, so maybe Bernie's theories aren't even right here. Maybe Scylla's just hungry. I don't think so, though. I do think one of his theories is a little more accurate than the other. While on her rampage, Scylla starts releasing excess heat into the environment, causing damage to the ozone layer, as confirmed by the Godzilla X Kong novelization. It's stated here that Scylla travels across the ocean floor, climbing across it, causing damage there as well. In the movie Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire, we pick up where The Hunted leaves off. The Hunted ends with Scylla appearing in Rome, Italy, and going on a true and classic rampage. This is the first and only since Ghidorah not motivated by nuclear power plants in the area. Right as this kicks off, Godzilla awakens and responds with full fury, leading into the events seen in the film. In the movie, Scylla's brief rampage is characterized by her smashing into buildings and webbing up city blocks. These are not the characteristics of an alpha titan trying to challenge Godzilla for the throne. This behavior seems much more in line with a creature preparing to transform the area into a nest to reproduce within. Maybe because she's no longer serving her purpose to the environment, maybe because she's disobeyed Godzilla's orders one too many times, or maybe because being a titan in Godzilla's world simply means sleeping your life away or dying with no in between, Godzilla decides that Scylla's time is now. She is now threatening the balance of nature, and so he launches a full all-out attack against her. Another indicator that Scylla was looking to breed and not supercharge is that despite the radiation absorption, she actually fares far worse in this fight than she did against Godzilla in Dominion. And while Godzilla was hungry in Dominion, he was still at his peak strength in that comic book during that fight. Her legs are no longer able to pierce Godzilla's body as they were able to do in Dominion, and the attempt to choke Godzilla out with her tendrils doesn't disorient Godzilla like it does in Dominion. Instead, it results in him performing the kiss of death on her and killing her outright. Godzilla and Scylla's battle is very brief here, with Godzilla once again being able to throw her around like he does in Dominion. And like I said, this is the end of Scylla, as Godzilla makes the ultimate decision to kill her before the fight can even really begin. So the question here is why? Why does this happen in the first place? Well, Godzilla's decision to fight and kill Scylla ultimately comes down to a number of factors. She was one of the few titans who still dared to rival Godzilla after he took his place as king, and she did have a repeated history of disobedience. Her nuclear hunger was so strong that she wouldn't back down from fights either. And her recent consumption of nuclear energy may have resulted in her becoming too powerful enough to take Godzilla on, or it may have resulted in her spawning dozens if not hundreds of babies that could potentially upset the natural order in various ways. Maybe they would compete for too many resources, maybe they would launch an all-out war against the surface world, taking over everything as their territory, or maybe they would be able to swarm and overpower Godzilla himself. After all, that was the same fear he had for the Mutos. While I don't think Scylla personally was that big of a threat to Godzilla, nor do I think she was ultimately doing that much to damage the natural environment, I can see from Godzilla's perspective that after she stopped the freezing in the Antarctic and started to heat up the environment, and after she started releasing nuclear waste into the atmosphere as she was going on her hunger rampage, she might have been a threat to the natural order, and so she needed to go. The reason Godzilla doesn't give her the chance to back down is simply because she didn't in the past. Godzilla does a big roar at her in the movie. I don't think that's an alpha call by any means. means. It's just Godzilla roaring. Not every Godzilla roar is an alpha call, and I think this was Godzilla just preparing to fight. Unfortunately for Scylla, it was just one too many times for her. Godzilla was sick of it, and it was time to go. And that's why Godzilla attacks and kills Scylla. I really don't think it had anything to do with her destroying Rome. I think it was all about the fact that she was causing damage to the environment wherever she went, and the fact that if she was left uncontested, she could have spawned and her babies could have taken over the world. Godzilla's a simple man with simple motivations, so that's why. Goodbye, my favorite King of the Monsters Titan. I love Scylla, I love the design, I think she's awesome, and I feel bad for her. Awakened by the Titan hunter only to get killed as a result of it. It was not her fault, Godzilla. Poor guy. I feel bad. Well, that'll do it for this one, guys. Are there any other lingering questions you have after watching Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire? Comment those down below and maybe I'll answer them in a different video like this. What do you think of Scylla? What's your favorite Scylla appearance, and what's your favorite thing about Scylla? For me, I really love the design. I like how creepy she looks. She takes a lot of inspo from the insect kaiju we've seen in the Toho films, but takes the cool factor to a whole nother level. I just think she's really neat. Very sad she blew up. Her head got exploded. Rest in peace. Thank you guys all for watching. I want to give a huge thank you to my patrons over on Patreon. If you want to check out the Patreon, you can use the link in the description below, where you can get early access to content, access to the Discord community, and more. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I will see you guys next time for the next one. D-Man out.